We are on the sequence series review sheet. Problem number 6 says, find S sub 20. All right, let me get my formulas up here. So, I'll put them on here. So we have here are S formulas.
Yeah, give me my hand in that too.
And we have our A formulas.
Can you not give me that too? Oh yeah, I'll figure it. Oh yeah, I'll figure it.
Okay. So I know I'm going to be using an S formula. So in order, actually I'm using an S sub formula. So that means I'm going to be using either this one or this one, right? These are the only S sub formulas. So I got to decide which one I'm going to use, and how do I decide that? What's it based on? Whether I am arithmetic or geometric. So what am I in this problem? Looks like I'm arithmetic with a common difference of 4, right? So I'm going to be using my arithmetic formula. This is how do you know it's arithmetic? It doesn't have an R. Remember, if it's geometric, it's going to have an R. If it doesn't have an R, then it's arithmetic. Okay, so I'm using that top formula. I know n is 20, S sub n is 20. I know my first term is negative 18. Oh shoot. What goes here? What do I need right here? A sub 20. Look at the formula. A sub 20, n is 20. Do I know A sub 20? No. No. So I'm going to figure out A sub 20 using the bottom formula. So what will A sub 20 be? According to the formula, the one on the bottom, A sub 20 is the first term plus the common difference, which you already told me was 4, times 19. Is that okay? So what is that? 58. Now, 58 is not the answer to the question. What do I do with the 58? Plug it in right here. Right? So now I'm going to take negative 18 plus 58 and multiply it essentially by 10. I think you get 400. Don't just trust me, guys. When I do stuff in my head, who knows what happens. Make sure you know how to type this in. Alright, next problem, A sub 8. Now I'm going to use one of my A sub formulas. I'm going to be using one of these, A sub 8. What kind of sequence do I have? Multiplying by negative 2. So it's geometric, and the ratio is negative 2. So here are your options. These are the only A formulas. This is the one that's got an R in it, so that's the one I'm using. So A sub 8 equals your first term, which is 12, times your ratio to the 7th, n minus 1. That's n, A sub n. No idea what that is. Let's see. I got negative 1536, 1,536. Number 8. We talked about this yesterday. If I'm going to write an explicit rule, which formulas do I use to do that? An explicit rule.
Just a second.
These guys right here. You always use your A formulas for an explicit rule. Okay? So, What kind of sequence do I have in problem 8A? Arithmetic. So 8A is arithmetic with a common difference of 3. So I will use my arithmetic A sub n formula. Anybody remember what we plug into it? We only plug in 2 things. What do we plug in? We plug in our first term and our common difference. So A sub n will equal 10 plus 3 times n minus 1. When you write an explicit rule or an explicit formula, you use your A formulas and you plug in only the first term and the difference or the ratio, depending on what kind of sequence you have. And then you simplify. So 10 plus 3n minus 3. So 3n plus 7. Or if you said 7 plus 3n, that would be fine also. Okay. Now, what about the next one? It's exactly the same thing, except what kind of a sequence is 8B? It's geometric, so I'll be using this formula, but I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna plug in my first term, which is 3, and then I'm gonna plug in my ratio. What is my ratio in that problem? 4. And this does not simplify, ever. Don't ever combine those. And then number 9. Now these can be hard, but this one isn't. Because notice it doesn't contain any non-repeating stuff. It's just literally 0.343434, and we have a shortcut for those kind. It's only the ones that look like this, like 0.134, like this. That one's harder. But if it's just plain 0.34, then what is it gonna be? Anybody remember from yesterday? 34 over 99. That's it, 34 over 99. There's no work to show now. If it reduces, you need to reduce it, but 34 over 99 doesn't reduce. The problem with repeating decimal is you can't put the whole thing in your calculator, because it goes on forever and ever. Now, you can check it on your calculator, so if you do 34 divided by 99, it should come out to be the original problem. Okay. All right, here we go. Next page says pre-quiz. All right, this is like practice test. Identify the sequence as arithmetic, geometric, or numeric. All right, what do you think about 1F? Arithmetic with a common difference of 1. Get in the habit of giving the common difference. So arithmetic, common difference is 1. How about B? Geometric, what am I multiplying by? 2/3, very good, 2/3. When in doubt, take consecutive terms, like right here, these are consecutive terms, and divide the second one by the first one. So what do you get when you put this over this? 2/3. That's what you're multiplying by, 2/3. How about C? Neither. There's a pattern there, 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, but it is not arithmetic or geometric. Everybody okay with that? All right. Find the indicated term or sum. All right, so question A is a term, A sub 11. arithmetic or geometric? Problem 2A. Geometric, what's the ratio? 3? So I know I am going to be using this formula. Would everyone agree? And I'm just gonna plug my stuff in. So the first term is 1. You already told me the ratio is 3, and I'm gonna take it to the 10th power, because n is 11. That's n. A sub n. So this will be a big number of 59,049. That all right with everybody? S sub 100. Well, you're narrowed down to these two because these are the only two that are S sub. Are we arithmetic or geometric? Arithmetic with a common difference of -3. So if it's arithmetic, it's this guy right here, right? The top one? Right? So here we go. S sub 100 will be 100 over 2. What does A sub 1 stand for? What's that? First term. And the first term is 32. Oh, bummer. We're right back where we were a minute ago. Because what do I need here? What would this be? A sub 100. Which means the 100th number in the list. Do I know that? Nope, I'm gonna figure it out. So A sub 100. Okay, we just did this.
The bottom
Bottom one. A sub 100 will be 32 plus -3 times 99. I got -265. Now that isn't the answer. What do you do with that -265? Plug it in right there. Add 32 to it. Multiply it by 50. I got -11,650. -11,650. Anybody else get that? Perfect. Remember, as tired as you are, it's probably a good idea if you were typing these in with me to make sure you know how to type it in. All right, C says find S. There's only one formula up here that's S, and that's this one. There's no sub on that, it's just S. So, here we go. S equals, first term is 5. What is my ratio? What am I multiplying by? 1/3. So I have 5. What is 1 minus 1/3? I can't round off. So 2/3. Now if you type that into your calculator, it's fine, but make sure that's in parentheses. I'm gonna go ahead and multiply by the reciprocal, so you should get 7.5 or 15/2 as your answer. Make sure you can get that. Next, we're gonna find A, so I'm using one of these formulas right here.
bottom
Is it arithmetic or geometric? 1, 5, 9, 13.
arithmetic.
Arithmetic with a common difference of 4. That's the bottom formula, so here we go. First term plus the common difference times 2013. Did you get 8,053? Alright, and one more of these, we're finding S sub 6. Okay. So I'm gonna be using one of these. What kind of sequence do I have? 2832. Geometric with a ratio of 4. Formula says first term, which is 2, minus 2 times the ratio to the 6, or 1 minus the ratio. So go ahead and make your denominator -3. Simplify that before you start. And then make sure when you're typing in the numerator, 2 minus 2 times 4 to the 6 equals, make sure you hit equals, and then divided by -3. I got 2,730. Those are the kind of tough ones to type in. Make sure you're getting that answer. Now we got some limit questions. There's no partial credit for these guys, so make sure you're taking your time looking at the problem carefully. What is A? No limit. What's in the parentheses? A 6 for Pete's sake. 6 is bigger than 1. Remember, we were talking absolute value. So that's bigger than 1, so there's no limit to that one. How about B? 3 over 2. 3 halves. 3 over 2. 3n over 2n. How about C? 0. 0 n cubes over 4n cubes. Right? 0 divided by 4, 0. How about D? D. 0. My goodness. 3/5 is less than 1. Guys, when the number's less than 1, I don't care what else is in the problem, the limit's going to be 0. And how about E? No limit, because we have 3n squared over 0n squared, and 3 over 0 doesn't exist. No limit. Because -6 has an absolute value bigger than 1. And when the number's bigger than 1, there's no limit. But if you take something that has -6 over and over and over again, like -6 to the first, -6 to the second is 36, -216. What's happening to those numbers? Are they getting smaller? You'll get further away from 0. Okay. Write the explicit rule. Okay, which formula do we use when we write the explicit rule? We use one of the A's, right? Depending on our sequence. So what have we got in problem 4A? It's geometric, the ratio is 3. So therefore, I would use this formula right here. And when I write an explicit formula, I plug in what I know. So I plug in my first term, which is 2, and my ratio, which is 3. You already figured that out. Done. That's it. That's the answer. Don't do anything to it. You can't do anything to it. But what about B? B is what kind of sequence? Arithmetic, and its ratio, or excuse me, its difference is 4. So I use my arithmetic formula, the bottom one, and plug in what I know. My first term is -7. My difference is 4. And then I can simplify that, right? Because I can do distributive property. And I can collect like terms. So either -11 plus 4n, or 4n minus 11.
Another connection.
Okay, so there's my formula. Are we okay? All right, number 5 is one of those weird ones where we know the 4th term is 2. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th term is 26. So we have an arithmetic sequence. The 4th term is 2, and the 10th term is 26. Okay, now, what does arithmetic mean again? Add the same thing over and over again. Now, that means that I would add something, add, and eventually get from 2 to 26, right? Now, from 2 to 26 is a distance of 24. And how many steps am I taking to get from the 4th term to the 10th term? 6. So 6 steps, 6 additions have to add up to be 24 to get from 2 to 26. So that means each step must be 4. So if you add 4, add 4, add 4, add 4, add 4, add 4, there you go, it's perfect. But I need to find a sub 200. Now, a sub 200 of an arithmetic sequence would use this formula right here, right? What do I need to know to use this formula? First term, so now I'm gonna have to go the other direction. So remember, to go that way, you added 4. So going this way, I will have to subtract 4. I got -10 for my first term. So -10 plus 4 times 199. $786. Okay, that one took a little more time and effort. Did everybody follow all that? Problem 6 is another super simple one. What fraction is 72 repeating 72? 72 over 99. I do believe that one reduces. 9 goes into 72, 9 goes, I think it's 11. But I can check that real quick. 8 divided by 11. Sure enough, there it is. We'll do another harder one. Let's finish this next practice thing. And if it doesn't have a harder one, oh yeah, it has a harder one. So we'll get some practice with that. If the only thing in the problem is thing is repeating. It's just somebody over 99 done. No work. Right? Okay. All right, here we go. The last pre-quiz. This is it. This is our last practice before next time's quiz. All right, identify the sequence. Is arithmetic, geometric, or neither? What do you think about A? Neither. Do you see a pattern in there, Darryl? Is there any kind of pattern that you see?
2, 3, 4.
We're multiplying by
2.
3, and then by 4, and then by 5, so there's a definite pattern. Those are the factorials, by the way, 1 factorial, 2 factorial, 3 factorial. But they are not arithmetic or geometric. Good. What about B? 4 geometric. Geometric, and you're multiplying by 4 fifths. 4 divided by 5. 4 fifths. How about C? Arithmetic, and the difference is -8. Yep, very good. -8. Alright, let's hear your ideas about 2A. Let me number my formulas here. What formula, I numbered them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one are you gonna use for problem A? Which one? 5. We're gonna use 5. Why are we using 5 for problem A? First of all, it's an A sub formula. And if you're doing an A sub formula or problem, you gotta use one of those formulas. How do you know it's number 5 and not number 4? It's arithmetic. The common difference is 3. So first term plus common difference times 2014 and minus 1 and minus 1. And what did you come up with? $6,044, is that what you said, Evan? So what are you struggling with on that problem? Is there anything bothering you about that? Are you okay? It's correct. It's good. Seems easy to me. I want to make sure it seems easy to you. All right, B. You only have one option. This is equation 2. S. First term is 4. What are you multiplying by? What's your ratio? 3/4. 3/4. 1 minus 3/4 is 1/4. But if you do it on your calculator, it might say 0.25. Doesn't matter. Just make sure that you're getting 16 as the answer to the question. So take a minute, type that, somehow figure this out, pretend you gotta figure that out. Make sure you can get 16. Which formula for problem C? Find A sub 13.
Geometric.
Which one? 4. It's geometric with a ratio of 2. So what does equation 4 say? Take the first term times the ratio to the n minus first. Ooh, 24,576.
Yeah.
All right, is the pain in the butt problem. Because, first of all, is it arithmetic or geometric? Arithmetic with a common difference of -10. And what makes this a pain in the butt is, I'm using equation number 1. I know that n is 213. I know my first term is 1,000. But what do I not know? I don't know a sub 213, and that's what would have to go there. So I'm gonna have to back up and use equation 5. So 1,000 minus 10 times 212. First term, common difference, and minus 1. And for that term, I got negative 1,120. And this is where sometimes we have issues, because sometimes we put that down as the answer. That's not the answer. That goes in here, and that will be the answer. So. I got for my final answer, negative 12,780. Check it. Make sure it's right. Is that okay? If I make mistakes, let me know, okay? All right, E, find S sub 8. Look at the sequence. What formula? S sub 8. Number 3. Why is it 3? First is S sub. It is geometric with a ratio of 3. So here we go. My first term is 2. Make sure that's okay. I'm just plugging numbers right into equation 3. First term ratio n. I'm gonna make that a -2. Jack, you focused, man? Okay. All right, let's type it in, see what we get. $6,560 is what I came up with. Mary's nodding, that makes me feel good. Willow, are you nodding?
I can't.
All right, let's do our limits, here we go. Number 1, or A. 0. 2/3 is less than 1, 0. How about B? No limit. 3/2 is too big. No limit. How about C?
-2/3.
-2/3. How about D? No limit, because you have n squared and no n squareds. Everybody good? No limit on D? How about E? 0, because now you have 0 n squared over 3n squared, so that one's 0. E is 0. And how about F? 6/7. Yep. 6/7. All right, number 4. We're gonna write an explicit rule. All right, so take a second and see if you can do A and B. See if you can write an explicit rule for equation A, or for sequence A and B.
He said it don't matter.
Which formulas are you using for the explicit formulas? 4 and 5, the bottom two. You're using A formula, the bottom two.
See it though, so like, let me see first. Please.
All right. Luke, what'd you write down for 4A?
The rule, so -3, and
Then what?
I just continued on like the pattern and stuff. But -3, that's.
Okay, so what is -3? -3 is the common difference, right? Our job is to write an explicit rule. So our job isn't to write out a whole bunch of terms of the sequence. We're writing an explicit rule. Now, we need that information. But we're gonna come down here and we're gonna use this formula because it's arithmetic, so we're using that formula to do it. And our first term is 32. Our common difference is -3. So that's step 1. Does that look okay to everybody? And then we'll go ahead and distribute. And you will either write 35 minus 3n, or you will write -3n plus 35. It does not make a difference. But one of these is your answer. Is that okay with everybody? All right. Connor, what'd you do for B? What is your B look like?
I did, the fourth, like,
Yep. Fourth, he said he used this
Yeah.
one? Yep.
and then I did, 2 times 4, and then, power to n minus 1.
Bingo. And you stopped. Because that one's done. So we plugged in his first term, which was 2, and his ratio, which he figured out was 4. Alright? Alright, 5 is one of those kind of tricky ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth term is 22. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the 11th term is 46. Now, the good news is it's arithmetic. So that means that to get from here to here, I am just gonna start adding something. How many times am I gonna add it? I'm going from term 5 to term 11. So I'm gonna need to add it 6 times. So 6 of those additions, 6 of those differences is gonna get me from 22 to 46. Well, 22 to 46 is 24. So by adding something 6 times, I'm gonna move 24. So each addition is gonna have to be 4 again? Does that make sense to you?
We get to, why do we have to 24?
You're going from 22 to 46. How far is it from 22 to 46? Yep, 24 spots. So, last time, I figured all these out, but in the end, I didn't need those, right? What do I need? That one. So if going that way, I'm adding 4. Going this way, I will be minusing 4. So minus 4, minus 4, minus 4, minus 4. I got 6. That's my first term. Now I need the 200th term. How do I find the 200th term? Bottom formula. 6 plus 4 times 199. 802? All right, was there anything about that confused you? Okay, let's look at the next one. If the problem had been this, then what would the fraction be? If that's the problem, 32 over 99. Done. But that is not the problem. This is a harder one. So 0.3 repeating 2 is 0.3 plus what? 0.02 and then 0.002 and so on. Remember when I wrote down the 0.3, I took this spot out, so now it's a 0. And then when I wrote down the next 2, then both of those are zeros and so on. I will use a formula to add up this part. Anybody remember what formula I used? 2. I use 2. Why do I use 2? Because it's infinite. Dot, dot, dot goes on forever. There's no end. It goes on forever. So, S equals the first term, which is 0.02, over 1 minus the ratio. How many digits are repeating? 1. When one digit repeats, what's your ratio? 0.1. 0.1. So that's 0.02 over 0.9. Now we need to move the decimal. How many places are we going to need to move that decimal? 2. But both of them get moved 2. You guys both move 2. So if we move the top one 2, we just have 2. But if we move the bottom one 2, we have 90. That isn't the answer. You have to take that 2 over 90 and add that back in. So we're going to add 3/10. So I have 2 90ths and 27/90ths. So I think my answer is 29/90ths, but I'm gonna check that to see. 29 divided by 90. Yep.
I'm keeping it straight like this.
These are so much easier. These are harder to do. Okay, all right, well, that's it. You've just done the whole practice quiz twice today. So, is there anything you need to practice extra?
Honestly, I did it backwards. I was just wondering why we would do it.
Because you gotta get rid of the decimal. And this one has two decimal places. Yep, yep.
Can we do the find the sum one?
Which
I
one?
don't think we did one of those. Maybe we did. Like where it was like, never mind, maybe we already did those.
T, B, D, and E are all find the sum. 2B, D, and E are all find the sum. Let me look quickly at your homework and see if there's anything tricky there. Let's do on the 9-5 homework. I'm just a little worried about this one because it takes so many steps. Let's do number 3, where we have to rewrite this thing as a fraction. So this is your 9-5 homework. And problem number 3 is exactly like the one we just did. So just quickly as a review, what if it had been that? If that were the problem, the answer would be 1399. Yeah. So we're not gonna make those kind of hard. We're just gonna say 13/99. This time, what is the first thing we do? Just from this example, what is the first thing we do? We write it out, right? We break it out. So this is gonna be 0.1 plus what? 0.03 plus 0.003, and write out as many as you want, it doesn't matter. Then we will use a formula and add up that part of it. What formula do we use? Number 2. My first term is 0.03, and my ratio is what? 0.1. Why is it 0.1? Because I only have one repeating number, 3 is repeating. When one number repeats, your ratio is 0.1, period. So what have I got? 0.03 over 0.9. Let's move the decimal. What would that become? 3/90. You can reduce that if you want, you don't need to because it's not the answer, we're not done. What do we need to do? Add in the 1/10, that's not a 1, that's a 1/10. What's the common denominator between 90 and 10? 90. So 3/90ths and 9/90ths. Which gives me 12/90ths, does that reduce?
Yeah.
Anything go into 12 and 90 both?
2.
2, so that would be 6/45. Anything go into 6 and 45? 3, so that would be 2/15. I'm gonna check that, 2 divided by 15. Yep, sure enough, you got it right. Anything else on that homework? Maybe you've already done it, gotten it back, maybe you haven't done it yet, maybe it's in the plate right now, I don't know.
B.
Anything on that homework look confusing?
B.
B? 1B? So we wanna find the sum, the directions say find the sum. What kind of a sequence do we have there? What are we doing? Can you tell how we're getting from term to term? Multiplying, what are we multiplying by? 5. Looks like we're multiplying by 5. Check it out. Multiply by 5, I think that's what's happening. How many of them are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
6.
So the directions say add up 7 terms. The ratio is 5. Which formula? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which formula is gonna work for this problem? Which one? Not B. B, not 2, because that's an infinite formula. I want S sub 7. Want to see this one? So S sub 7 is the first term, 0.01, minus 0.01 times 5 to the 7th over 1 minus 5. That's negative 4, so we'll take care of that first. I got 195.31. That's what I got on the key too, so I think it's right.
Yeah.
Alright, we got 3 minutes to kind of wrap that up, look on that, finish that up. Quiz, next time I see you. Next time I see you, which is Friday. We are going